right, welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John, and this week I am joined by veteran historian and author Andrew Biggio, who is the author of the very popular book or book series, The Rifle. My partner in crime is not with me today as he is prepping for a theater production, so it's just going to be me and him today. Andrew, welcome, and or I should say, welcome back, as our listeners aren't aware of the cursed nature of this particular episode.
Thanks. Yeah, but you know what? It's good to be back. I enjoyed our first talk, so
For
let's do it.
for those at home, to bring you the terrific movie review of Saving Private Ryan, we've had scheduling and technology and general life things going on. That's as we said, we've recorded this episode before. It unfortunately did not save, but Andrew, you were gracious enough to come back and tackle this topic again. So I greatly appreciate that.
I believe in you.
Well, at least one of us does.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned before, Saving Private Ryan. This was your movie choice. First question right off the bat is why this movie for you? I think it's probably the most the war movie of all war movies. But what is your attachment to this film?
It's definitely the film that really sparked or helped spark my total interest to help veterans in general, not just World War II veterans, but all veterans. As a kid growing up with like ADD and ADHD, I couldn't even sit still in school, never mind read a book. But what had a profound impact on my life was sitting in front of the big screen or TV. And that's what really got the point across to me. And to see Saving Private Ryan and see what those guys went through, it changed my life as a young man to honor veterans and respect the sacrifices that they went through for our country.
And that's that's great. Could you tell us a little more about your work with the rifle, which is ultimately kind of your big outreach tool for World War II vets?
Yeah, I served in Iraq and Afghanistan as a Marine. And I think when I was in the service, I kind of forgot about Saving Private Ryan and the veterans who wore the uniform before me because I was just trying to get through my own service. But when I came home, I found out the need to help injured Iraq and Afghanistan veterans who came home less fortunate than me, and that spawned into me purchasing an M1 Garand rifle. And then, who better to hold the rifle and see the rifle is the World War II veteran. So I ended up bringing that M1 Garand and putting it into the hands of over 400 World War II veterans, recording their story and doing my due diligence and my purpose of telling the story of men and women who couldn't be in the movie Saving Private Ryan, let's just say, or his Band of Brothers. I told the story of the unknown units, the unknown divisions, and the overlooked veterans of the Second World War in both my books, Rifle One and Rifle Two.
That's that's really great, the work that you've done. I've seen tons of videos of the interactions you've had with those guys, and it's something you've expounded upon in your book a lot, which is it really these guys who are in their 80s, 90s, almost hundreds now, like bringing them in the presence of the rifle really brings a new life to them.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was Saving Private Ryan was my inspiration to do my part and tell their stories. And then after Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers and the Pacific and you know and whatever else was to follow, YouTube specials, History Channel, everything seemed to be surrounded by the 101st Airborne, D-Day, Normandy, and I feel like, or the flag raising on Iwo Jima. So I felt like something needed to be told in between all of this stuff. And I would, I hope to God one day my books go to TV or movies.
I could definitely see it, and I highly doubt he listens to it. But if Tom Hanks could do that for one of your books, I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, I think my first book does a lot about the Italy campaign, which they've yet to cover.
I think that should be their next miniseries they do.
Oh yeah, I hope not. I want to do it.
So, uh, we had kind of joked before in our previous recording and in previous episodes. For us, we held off on this movie for such a long time because it's a film that if you type it into Google or YouTube, just type war movie, Saving Private Ryan is the first thing that comes up. It's always in the top 10 list of any kind of rating deal. It's such an indelible part of like popular culture
Right.
that we honestly we avoided it because we weren't sure how to honestly tackle it because we're like, what more can you say other than oh wow, Tom Hanks, great job, 5 out of 5 stars, move on. But with your vast experience of interacting with World War II vets and actually having you know gone overseas to these different battle sites, um, you know this was the one time we felt comfortable about actually tackling this film. So kind of moving in, um, I wanted to talk about the very first scene in the film, um, which is obviously old man James Ryan. Before all the action and whatnot takes off, we see him walking in the American cemetery in Normandy, and he comes across Tom Hanks's pseudo grave and has a very emotional moment with that. How did that scene strike you in comparison to like your work with World War II vets?
When I first saw that scene in 1999, I think the movie came out. I was in fifth grade, but I probably didn't see the movie till I was about like sixth grade, I think. And so I always thought it was a powerful scene, right? Like, wow, he returns and he falls down. Then, let's see, 25 years later, I'm bringing veterans back to Holland and Normandy and Italy and Luxembourg and Belgium and watching them collapse at the grave sites. Um, I literally duplicated that scene 25 years later by accident when I brought Ed Cottrell, who was a 100-year-old fighter pilot, back to Holland. And he had never seen his roommate's grave, right? So he was a fighter pilot. Back then, the fighter pilots shared rooms, whatever building that they would take over as the Ninth Air Force, advanced through Europe. And they lived in a schoolhouse in the town of St. Tron, Belgium. And him and Ted Smith shared the same room, and they went out on December 27th, December 17th, and Ed was the only one that came back. Ted Smith was shot down and killed that day. And I had found Ted Smith's grave in Holland when we flew into Amsterdam. I didn't tell Ed. I brought him to the cemetery to see if he would notice. I told him that we were visiting some guys from Boston, Mass, that were buried here, and I took him down a row to see if just to see. And sure enough, he stuck out his hand and said, "Ooh." Walked over to the grave, and at the age of the time, he was 99. Now he's 101 or 102, but he got down on one knee, grabbed that grave, and started to cry. And I didn't think about Saving Private Ryan right there. It wasn't until I got home and started to get millions of views on Facebook that I realized I just recreated that scene in Saving Private Ryan. And now that I think about it, I wonder how many times that's happened since the construction of those cemeteries over there. How many veterans have come back and just got on their knees that's the reason why they showed that scene in the movie.
Yeah, it definitely it's a scene that it's very powerful and it's full of a lot of emotion, but for someone who's never actually seen that occur or hasn't been like in a presence of a veteran who is experiencing that, I could definitely see how like your everyday person could kind of see that as just uh over dramatic Hollywood acting, if you will.
No, yeah, no, it's real life.
It definitely is. And I think that's probably what, going into the rest of this film, um, you know, there were plenty of films prior to Saving Private Ryan that doesn't shy away from violence or doesn't shy away from the horrors of war. But I think this is one of the first truly realistic films. Um, you know, just the last time we had discussed this, we talked about the different combat scenes. You know, obviously the very first invasion, or the landing at Omaha is such an intense uh, battle scene. It's probably one of the most intense battle scenes that you can find in any film ever. Uh, what did you think about the initial attack on Omaha?
I thought it was unbelievable. I mean, I said, "Holy crap!" For once, we don't see like pew 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 like in movies.
Right.
We're hearing thuds, we're hearing impacts, we're hearing wet uniforms being hit with rounds. We're hearing the dinks off boats. We're hearing helmet shots. We're seeing impacts. We're seeing real life explosions. The smoke, we're seeing people on fire. It looks so realistic. And I remember seeing, I always see like, the movie came out in 1999. I mean, it was pre Band of Brothers. It was pre September 11th. It was, before the internet got taken over by so much that I remember seeing like random facts of Saving Private Ryan where it was like World War II veterans. Um, some had to leave the theaters, and I think it was you who told me like some World War II veterans were told to call a hotline after they saw that movie because of how realistic it was. And
Right.
so, I mean, that was like the first real realistic war movie that had been ever shown like that since the war. That was, I think that movie came out. Let's see, 1995 would be 50 years after the end of World War II. So then you have 96, 97, 98, 99. So 54 years later, right?
Yeah.
Is basically that movie came out 54 years later after World War II. Crap, that's not even that long, if you think about it.
No, it's not, and it also just kind of speaks to, I think every generation kind of has to wrestle with their own aging and their kind of place in history, because like, you know you're currently working with a generation of guys who, they are in their 90s, they are getting into their hundreds, they're dwindling down. um but at one point, it's how this film starts off. Like, yes, it's an older guy who's playing as old Matt Damon, but he's like in his 70s. You don't think of him as like an old man,
Yeah.
um it's crazy to me to think that like kids today have a similar association with World War II vets, the same way that like you and I would have an association with like World War One vets, where it's like there's so few of them left.
Yeah. And you know what? The other thing is like the Vietnam vets are the age now of what Tom Hanks was or Matt Damon was in that in that movie,
Right.
you know? So I think the Vietnam vets are averaging what in their late 70s right now. So that's basically what Matt Damon's character would have been in that movie at that time. So I mean, yeah, because think about it, the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War was just recently, so a couple of years ago. So yeah, that's about it. And um, it's crazy to think that I duplicated that scene in the movie unintentionally 30 years later almost with a man who was 100. That's how much the wars never left them.
Right. It'd be almost as if, it'd be the equivalent of like my, I told you this story before, but my dad had the privilege to meet a World War One vet, um, back when, there was still very few of them left right around the time my dad met him. But like, it'd be the equivalent of like my dad taking a World War One vet to Verdun or something.
Mhm.
It's just crazy to think about.
That's yeah.
Um, God, what was I going to say? Um, so kind of moving on.
I knew what you were gonna
Um,
say. If Tom Sizemore was still alive, would I invite him to my 80th anniversary of being on the show? And the answer is yes, I would. I'd probably send him a message on Instagram or Twitter and be like, "Tom, I'm bringing 5 veterans," and he'd probably go.
yeah, rest in peace, Tom Sizemore. He honestly was one of the best parts of this film. Like, he obviously plays the like he's kind of typecasted as the like grizzled sergeant, but he does such an excellent job doing it.
Yeah, he was. He was outstanding, And he wasn't the typical fit, 6-pack type soldier. I mean, they made him, the thicker older guy, so um, there's the scene where it's like, Tom Hanks is taking his anger out on him and he's like, I want to go up the middle when they're talking about taking up he's like, yeah, the way you run, I don't think so.
Right. I uh I can't remember if it was this film specifically, but I think it was this film. But, Tom Sizemore, like a lot of Hollywood actors, had substance abuse issues. And I think it was a part of the agreement, or there was some sort of incident that occurred where Steven Spielberg basically said, okay, I'm going to start drug testing you every day. And if you pop hot, I will reshoot every one of your scenes and I'll kick you off of this film. And the
Wow.
fact, and like I said, I believe it's this film. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that that happened in one of his films. And the fact that, like, he was dedicated enough to this particular project to do that, I think speaks volumes about,
Hmm.
you know, the how important this particular film was to everybody that was involved.
Yeah, I think not Band, I think Black Hawk Down came out in 2001. So he did Saving Private Ryan, and then Black Hawk Down came out in 2001. He played an awesome hardcore, sergeant. Then I think,
Pearl Harbor.
yeah, Pearl Harbor as well.
That's kind of it's a no movie around here. That's our bottom of the barrel.
I know. You know what's funny is that even though Pearl Harbor was such a joke of a movie, there was actually some pretty cool scenes of that movie.
Oh, absolutely. I
You know.
thought, even though it had nothing to do with Pearl Harbor, the like Battle of Britain scenes in that film, phenomenal.
Right. Yep. And then yeah, first they're fighting in pre-war World War II, like they're over there helping England, then they're back just in time for Pearl Harbor, and then they're on the freaking Doolittle raid, and you know.
That's something I really would love to have nowadays, is like a big budget Doolittle Raider movie.
Hmm.
Because there's been a couple of attempts at Doolittle Raider movies, but like I think the one like quote unquote good like solely focused Doolittle film is 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, which was made during World War II.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of shitty World War II movies made. There's like a movie I think it's called like Anzio, and it like has nothing to do with Anzio. There's like a Battle of the Bulge movie. It has like nothing to do with the Battle of the Bulge. These are just great taglines, you
Right.
know, to call a movie.
Sells sells tickets.
Exactly. I mean, for its
I
time, like I said, for its time, Patton was a great movie for its time. Bridge over the, I mean, a Bridge Too Far, The Longest Day for their times. They were great movies.
Absolutely. We we reviewed A Bridge Too Far with one of the guys from the airborne demonstration team who they jump out of C-47s for reenactment events, and we love that film, um, just because of, you know, obviously Band of Brothers really kicked off like the popular culture, like everybody's super into like paratroopers and the 506 and all that stuff,
Hmm.
um, which I find to be kind of amazing that there wasn't almost like an earlier kickoff to it given this film, because you know Private Ryan, the story of Private Ryan is loosely based off an actual 506 guy who lost his brothers. And I had told you this last time, but it's literally all of like mentioned two sentence in Stephen E. Ambrose's book of this guy. And the fact that they were able to generate an entire, basically like the greatest war movie of all time out of what was essentially a footnote.
Yeah.
Um, I think it speaks volumes. But I'm
Well,
I'm surprised the love for like paratroopers didn't kick off before Band of Brothers because of that.
yeah. I think Stephen Ambrose's book, Band of Brothers, did really well. And then there was another guy. Oh man, his name is the tip of my tongue. Oh, Burnett or Burt. He wrote a couple best-selling airborne books, Um, but basically what they did, because as you know, Saving Private Ryan's a fictional movie. There's no Rommel, France with the bridge. There's no, um, the Rangers were assigned to Point du Hoc, but then they put him on with the 29th Division there. And like I told you before, I can't remember if they loosely based that on a Rangers boat that got misguided and went in with the 29th Division at Easy Red, or Dog One and all that stuff. I can't remember, but it was basically like, did you take a million stories of World War II veterans and you make one movie out of it? That's what the Saving Private Ryan is. They took stories from, let's just say you could interview 1,000 World War II veterans who participated in Normandy, and they took all of their stories and made one movie out of it. And that's like Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, it also, I think it's great. You're describing of it of like every person. It really is, even if it is from the American point of view. We see so much. We see the beach landing, but then we also see, the like the days after of like Normandy becoming the largest seaport in the world, and then we see inland fighting. We see the paratroopers. We see tank combat. It's literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which kind of it that kind of goes into the next thing I wanted to bring up was my own personal favorite scene, and I'll get to asking yours here in a moment. But my personal favorite scene in this entire movie is when Tom Hanks and the gang come across a crashed glider site, and it turns out uh, it is the glider carrying the second in command for the 101st Airborne, and like that is a true story that the second in command the second in command for the 101st died in the glider crash because they decided to up armor the glider and told nobody about it. Um, but like the actor who gives that monologue about like, very much showing like the post traumatic stress of like, I tried doing everything I could, but like everybody in my plane died. Like I barely, you know, prevented myself from breaking both of my arms trying to land this thing.
Right. Yeah.
Um, like it's such a fantastic bit of acting. Like there's so many great individual pieces of acting in this, but like that was such another one of those like super heavy scenes. But it's such a small story that lets the audience see a much wider part of a story that isn't generally touched on.
Correct. Um, that was a great scene, and based on a story from World War II, added to that scene to make this movie whole. Right? How can we make this movie about finding this brother? I always forget. Did Ryan have four brothers killed or three brothers killed? I think he had three brothers killed,
I
and
think
he
he
was
had three.
yeah he was
Which the real kicker to it is the real guy that this was based on.
hmm
It turns out one of his brothers being killed in action was a false report. Um, so like I don't know what happened, but he was either missing in action or was presumed to be killed in action. But then, like a few months down the road, they found out, oh no, he's actually alive.
wow
So So, but yeah, it still goes to the fact that like after the whole incident, the army was not messing around with uh, bringing people home if like an entire family was about to get wiped out.
right. And I think going back to like favorite scenes, I didn't appreciate this scene when I was younger because I was just all about action. But the general who ultimately, from in Washington D.C., who decides that yes, they will risk the lives of random men to rescue this one guy, is a general who sits there and he reads Abraham Lincoln's real letter to a Massachusetts mother who lost four sons in the Civil War. Um, Maybe I think it might have been after Gettysburg that he sent the letter to her. She was a Massachusetts mom, and it was him expressing a personal handwritten letter expressing his condolences for her losing four sons in the Civil War. And he reads that letter. The general in Saving Private Ryan reads that to the colonel and to all the other ones and says, "We're gonna find him and we're gonna bring him home." Um, and that was so much history involved in that, and that's why um, when Tom Hanks gets the mission on Omaha Beach, he says to him, I think the other colonel says, "Hey, this is I got one right from the top from you. This comes right from the top. You're gonna go find, So that general made that decision ultimately that the mother who already lost three boys was not going to lose a fourth one.
Right. And going into, more great acting and terrific scenes, going more towards the end of the movie, we had discussed this where, you know, the entire movie, everybody in this group who's been assigned to go pick this guy up is like, man, fuck Ryan. Like I wouldn't change a Caparzo for Ryan or whatever. And, even Captain Miller, Tom Hanks' character, is like, this guy better go create like a longer lasting light bulb or something. Um,
Right.
so the entire movie, nobody likes him. They've never met him, but they're like, this is stupid. But then they finally do link up with him, and he has, he's dedicated to the unit he's with and the guys that he's fought alongside with, and he's like, I'm not leaving because there's nothing special about me. I didn't earn this. And Tom Hanks' character says, "Is that what I'm supposed to tell your mom?" When they hand her another folded flag, and
hmm
that just like really drives like a knife into the heart of anybody watching.
Yeah, and he says, "Well, you tell her when you found me, I was with the only brothers I had left." Which is selfish. I mean, I understand he wants to stay with his men, but your mom just got three different people coming to the house to tell him your brothers are dead. You son of a bitch! Get out! You're going home, and that's the end of this. And it's funny because they all say "F Ryan, F this guy, what the hell," but they're at the movie. They're supposed to be like 18 and 20 years old in the movie as young soldiers, so it's hard to know what someone's mother is going through after losing
Right,
all kids for the country. And it doesn't matter what you say, PFC, whoever, probably whatever. This is coming from a general in DC. The guy's going home. Period.
right. Another great line that makes me think of is He's like, "Oh, you don't think this mission is stupid?" It's like, doesn't matter. I don't complain to you. Complaints go up, not down.
Yeah, yeah, gripes go up. You know, and yeah, I'd say, and right before that, where they're patrolling, and he say, "It doesn't matter. My gripes go up. I don't gripe down." As a captain, one of my favorite scenes in that movie is, again, when you see a lot of war movies, you don't see the emotional connection between civilians going through hell in movies. Yeah, you'll see displaced people in the background, or you'll see like civilian casualties or something. But like the
Or
scene
they're
where
like
Capar's
they're running away or whatever.
correct, the scene where the unit comes across a young French family in the second story of their home, and half their home was blown up, and they're distraught, they're crying. I mean, both children acted really good. The mother acted good, and even the father looked. I mean, they really look like someone who just had their house blown apart, you know. And Caparzo, and that's ultimately the demise of Caparzo because he feels so bad. He takes the girl and he goes, "Oh, the decent thing to do is take her to the next town. She reminds me of my niece." And the captain's like, "Hello, we're not taking a little girl with us. We're not here to do the
Right.
decent thing. We're here to follow fucking orders, you know." And sure enough, he's standing out in the open too long and gets hit with a sniper. So it's a perfect scene to show you in war that no good deed goes unpunished.
Right. That also that was also a great scene because not only do you get that, but it's also just a great like it's a very tense moment as we see Barry Pepper have his anti-sniper moment where he's saying his little prayer as he's looking through his scope and then makes the one in a million, like shoots the other sniper through the sniper's scope on his rifle. And I love the fact that they actually like tested that on Mythbusters at one point. Um, but yeah, this movie is just filled with so many amazing scenes. It's also one of those things as like I can't even count the number of times I've seen this movie. It's way up there. But every time I watch it, I always notice
I've even seen
or
the dirty version of it, shaving Ryan's private.
oh, have you? I haven't I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that variant yet.
Yeah, there's I've seen it a million times, and it doesn't get old. It really doesn't. It's a magnificent piece of work. It's I always see like the Band of Brothers reunions, and if you go over to Normandy and you go over to Belgium, I mean, everyone loves Band of Brothers. They love the actors, but like I feel like Saving Private Ryan needs to have a reunion, like a 30-year reunion or something over there, and honor it. And I hope to see some of these guys over at the 80th anniversary of D-Day, because the 80th anniversary is this June, and it's going to be the last big anniversary with living World War II veterans.
Yeah,
There'll be nobody for the 90th.
I think you will be very hard pressed to. I think when it comes to the 85th anniversary, you're going to be in single digits, if that.
Yeah. I'm not doing anything with World War II veterans by then. That I know. So I know this is my last big hurrah, too.
My, I have yet to travel overseas to that part of the world yet. I hope to someday, but my own personal D-Day plans is I'm planning to go to Camp Toccoa
Yeah.
um, because every year, so they have restored a couple of the original barracks at Camp Toccoa there, and now every year on D Day they host a Currahee run. So it's a race, the same track that the guys in World War II did
Yeah.
for
I've
their
seen that.
PT.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's my 85th or not 85th 80th D Day anniversary plans is to run that that track and participate in those events.
That's pretty cool, man.
We'll see if I survive. I've been training for it, but I'm not. I don't I don't have a giant ass hill to like. I do live in Colorado, but I'm not running up the side of a mountain anytime soon. So
Yeah, Curry.
yeah, I've just been putting the treadmill on a high incline.
Yeah.
So hopefully that gets me ready enough.
Yeah, well, and it's all about the just the whole sentimental value of it, you know.
Right.
So
It's all about the experience and the like connecting with the past part.
yeah,
It's like I was fortunate enough that I got to participate in the 20th anniversary events for 9/11 in New York a couple of years ago. So I'm hoping to have a kind of a similar experience with that connecting to history type deal.
yeah, I've done the Tunnel to Towers run out there too.
So, kind of moving on, what is one thing that you would change about this film?
I'd say one thing I'd change about it. I'd say that I mean, yes, one thing I would change about it is just uh, kind of like a couple of the scenes that I guess weren't my favorite, and like there was just a couple of scenes, and I think the point of the scene was to show us this is what it was like for young American boys to be living together in a displaced war and living in and out of churches and buildings and getting to know each other and things like that. But there was a scene, in the church at nighttime where um they're all sitting there at night, and like Wade starts talking, the medic starts talking about like at nighttime I would sit there and ignore my mom, and she'd come in and I'd pretend I'm sleeping. It's just like a stupid ass scene, like, and everyone's just kind of talking to each other, and like the audio quality is not that great, and that's part of the scene. It's really hard to understand what people are saying or follow. And I think it was just they were showing burnt out soldiers reminiscing about home. That's what I think they were doing. But it's hard to nitpick that movie because it's it's such a great movie. Like I told you, it got like a million Academy Awards, but somehow it didn't get Best Picture, and fucking Shakespeare in Love got it.
Right.
Which is a bunch of pile of horse crap. But how do you pass over the greatest generation for Shakespeare in Love? I don't know. But yeah, that's one thing I guess it was my least favorite part of the movie. It's not something I could change, but like I get it. It's not supposed to be 3 hours of direct combat. They want to show you the different mental status of men in war. So these guys will just ramble on, talk about stuff. So I think that was the point of it. They show Tom Hanks, having
Right.
his trembles. They show him reminiscing about the men he lost. They show Wade talking about his mom. They show Ryben talking about, some chick with big breasts. And so I get the whole point of the movie, but it was my least favorite part.
Barry Pepper's just sleeping away.
Yeah, that would have been me.
How does he do it? Clean conscience.
Yeah.
I for me, I do really appreciate the cemetery scene, but the one thing I would change is, the cemetery bookends this film. So we start there, we get the story, and then we go back to I think it's the ending that really bugs me because we get like Matt Damon, like he ages into an old man before our eyes, and there's uh like a like a distressed American flag like waving in the background behind him. It's very kind of over the top, and he's like, he looks to his wife. He's like, "Tell me I'm a good man." Um, I think I think if they had either started the film or if they had ended the film with the cemetery scene, I think that would have been perfect. But the fact that they start and end it, I think it's a little too much for me.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. And like I said, I didn't like the part where, you know, Matt Damon, who's like crying his eyes out at the end of the battle for the bridge, goes up to him, and Tom Hanks goes, Earn this, earn this." And then what do they look up to the sky and they see like the planes and like angels on our shoulders or something like that.
They're tank busters, sir. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
like okay, Tom Hanks has a hole in his chest the size of a fucking softball, and you're telling him like what airplanes it is. Like, how about some medical aid might be might be better.
Yeah, can you try helping him out, not just like staring at him?
Yeah, he's like,
See,
"What's
this is
that?"
this
He's
is
like,
this is why nobody likes you, Ryan.
Earn this." It's like earn what? Earn it like earned it to go home, or you earned it because you fought well. Like, I help us out here.
I will say, even before that, though, the battle for the bridge, that is such an impressive uh, battle scene. Like, so much choreography going into it. So much, like, it's just an amazing scene because obviously there's the infamous Upham letting his friends die scene. You have I'm a big submarine guy, but my like something about seeing like tiger tanks rolling up the street, I was just like, yeah, this is awesome. Um, so I mean, there's so much to appreciate in that last battle. Was there any part of the last battle that like really stuck out to you or you really enjoyed?
Oh yeah, I mean, there was so many great things about that, and even like from a military strategic standpoint, putting shooters in elevated positions and putting machine guns and certain avenues of approach. Like they talked about it in the beginning of the battle, how they were going to do it, and then they executed. It was just really done well. That's what happens when I guess that's back when in movies this. If you wanted to play those actors, you had to go to a mini boot camp, so they did well there, and you could tell the differences between movies that put their guys through that and movies that don't. And I thought everything was great, taking over tanks. You never see like infantry jumping on tanks in certain movies, and then like the ricochets and the dust and the explosions and you know everything like that. So, and that one guy who didn't know how to use a sticky bomb and it just blows up in his hand, and
I love if you freeze frame it, it literally looks like a Mythbusters like dummy holding a fucking explosive charge.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I don't know. One thing I found silly about that battle, though, which I didn't really find any issues with any of the other battle scenes, but the end battle scene where their mortar tube is broken, so they just like start slamming mortar rounds onto a base plate and throwing them. I'm like, that's not how this works, guys.
Yeah, I
Like,
know. I'm like, well, maybe that was World War II mortar. So that's why I did that, using my imagination.
it's one of those Hollywood mortars.
Yeah. Even when they're shooting that anti-aircraft gun at the guys climbing, and their body parts are just falling apart like fucking gingerbread cookies. So
Oh, so uh, last time we did this, we were doing it in the morning, so we were both drinking coffee, and you had to go to work. Has your drink choice changed since the last episode?
oddly enough, I just happen to have these Mick Ultra seltzers, like flavored seltzers, in my fridge, and I was having a watermelon Mick Ultra seltzer. I mean, that is like completely gay, but that's what I'm drinking tonight, and
Ain't nothing wrong with something tasty.
that's right, it is good. And usually I'm a Jack guy or Jack and Coke, stuff like that. I had these. I had Chinese food with my kids, and then cracked open one of these, and it was like perfect. Not too heavy after eating your Chinese food.
Right. I I am currently doing that. Lent thing, and I chose to abstain from alcohol for the next 40 days, which was a terrible choice on my part because I forgot that St. Patrick's Day comes before Easter. I was like, God, why did I do this to myself?
Yeah, well, good for you, man. I'm 2 months without meat right now, actually.
Really, you
Yeah,
are you just doing it for just trying to change up the diet a little
that's
bit,
it. Just
or
just shock the body a little bit, change the diet. I'll probably go back to eating some meat in March, but it did help a lot physically. When I had some things going on with my stomach and stuff, it helped out tremendously, and I lost a few pounds so far. Nothing dramatic because I'm still crushing the pastas and pizzas, but I just said let me try something new.
why is all the best tasting stuff the worst for you?
I know, I know, it's the truth. So
I So last time I was drinking tea. This time I've upgraded because I just had a little bit of a long day. So I'm actually having a cup of coffee right now in the evening time. I'm sure that's not going to bite me in the ass later.
I
But
know. Sometimes it's good though, you know. Like my father has coffee after dinner when we go to restaurants. It doesn't seem
I
to keep him
don't.
up. Yeah, it doesn't seem to keep
I
him.
I had to stop doing coffee for a while because I used to work a grave shift, and like I was clearing like a pot and a half of coffee by myself.
Yeah,
And then, that just turns into acid reflux and heartburn. And I
yeah,
was like, I can't keep doing this.
yeah.
But I've since started reintegrating coffee into my diet. But with the abstaining of alcohol, I have decided to do something beneficial. So our listeners at home are it's a long-standing joke. We're not sponsored by anybody. We would love to be sponsored by somebody, but we're not. So while I'm abstaining from alcohol, I will be trying a different American-made drink company, coffee, tea, what have you. So today I am drinking committee coffee from, I believe it's Oregon. Uh, it's small American business, first respond. Excuse me, first responder owned. So go check them out. Some great stuff. Like I said, they don't pay me for anything, but I would love to if they hear this.
Amen.
Has anybody ever tried reaching out and sponsoring you with any of the work you do?
Uh not really. No.
It's a shame,
Yeah, or there's been always some sketchy catch with it, that just I'm like,
right?
dude, either pay me because you want to see World War II veterans go back overseas, not pay me, but donate, or not. Like I don't want to pump your wristwatches or your hand cream. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Come on, Tom
wow,
Hanks.
I love holding this rifle, but that's why I use palm olive. Palm olive is smooth.
What the rifle brought to you by Lumber Liquidators.
Yeah, the rifle brought to you by. I mean, hell, you think the NRA would sponsor my ass? But I mean, I'm the only person in human where schools are asking me to bring a rifle to. You know?
That's one of my favorite things that you had talked about in your first book was sneaking the rifle into a nursing home.
Yep.
Um, I just like I I don't know the idea behind like just doing shenanigans like that. I always got a kick out of.
I brought a rifle like a month after the Vegas shooting. I brought one into the casino in Vegas because the full 42nd Regimental Combat Team was having their reunion in the Golden Nugget. And I had to walk through the showroom floor, or the casino room floor, with a rifle in a case. I was feeling very uneasy.
Yeah, I could imagine, especially with the proximity to that event.
Did you want to rate Saving Private Ryan?
I would, and thankfully for our listeners at home, we've already got a rating system. It's
Yep,
the
it's
perks
not
of doing this.
stars.
It's the perks of doing this twice. So, listeners at home, we settled on the very iconic sticky bomb. Everybody had to give up their socks, and they just packed it with TNT, and apparently that works. So, our rating is going to be 1 to 5 sticky bombs. And Andrew, if you want to go first.
Gotta give it 5 out of 5 stars for a movie that represented the greatest generation and showed us great combat. 5 out of 5 sticky bombs.
And I'm going to match that 5 out of 5. Like I said, there's a couple of things I would like to change. I think there's some things that could have been done a little differently, but like this, it's like I said, it is the war movie of all war movies. If you type in war movie into Google, this is the first thing you're going to see. I don't know of another war movie that's won as many Oscars as this film has. And it's just genuinely got terrific acting in it. So 5 out of 5.
Amen.
Yeah. And for those of you who keep track at home, I don't have Rotten Tomatoes pulled up right now, but because we already discussed this before, it was like a 94, 95% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's up there, which honestly kind of blows my mind. I don't know if you knew this, but I'm guessing you've seen the movie Sands of Iwo Jima with John Wayne.
I have.
Did you know that that film has a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes?
No, I did not, but I do. They have some sick tank flamethrowing scenes in that movie that I like never seen
Oh,
before.
those are some awesome scenes. I find it funny because I think Saving Private Ryan is like I enjoyed Sands of Iwo Jima. Uh, Old John Wayne films hold kind of a special place in my heart. Um, but in no world is Sands of Iwo Jima better than Saving Private Ryan.
Well,
Like they're not on the same plane.
dude, it's a John Wayne thing. Seriously,
I I will say seeing John Wayne do a combat role in Sands of Iwo Jima was very entertaining.
I gotta rewatch that movie. It's been too long.
He does like I don't know if it's actually him or I'm sure it's probably like a stunt man or something, but John Wayne like throws a satchel charge into a bunker and then does like a perfect combat roll away from it as it blows up in the
Yeah,
background.
it's probably a stunt double. Wasn't his last like war movie like the Invasion of Panama, like the 1983?
John Wayne's last movie.
Like I mean, last like war movie. Like did he? I'm pretty sure he. It was either Panama or Grenada. He did a movie like his old ass was like,
No, his last one was the it was called The Conqueror, where John Wayne plays Genghis Khan. Like
right. So now he's a Mongolian. Like I don't. How the
it
hell
is
did?
granted, John Wayne, different time, uh, you know, and whatnot. But my God, like that was probably like one of the most racist things he ever did was pretend to be a Mongolian. Like they gave him this like terrible like Fu Manchu like mustache. It was just bad. It's also the film that killed him. Um, because where they filmed The Conqueror was actually a fallout site from the nuclear bomb testings.
Good lord.
So that's what gave him cancer.
I'm pretty sure they froze him, didn't they?
I don't think they froze him. I know they froze Disney.
They froze Ted Williams and John Wayne, I think.
I'm gonna have to Google that. Side tangent. I know this has nothing to do with John Wayne or war movies, but here in Colorado, where I am located, I highly recommend you come out if you have the chance to participate in this event. But we have a festival here called Frozen Dead Guy Days. Um,
Okay.
there is a fantastic story to it. So there's a town. It's called Netherland. It's a super small town. I mean, like a few hundred people, and it's up in the mountains. And I think it was like the 80s or something. There's this guy who wanted to be cryogenically frozen, but he didn't have the money to do it. Like,
Right. So he froze his ass on a mountain.
so he bought a tough shed, and basically his family, honoring his last wishes, put his ass in this tough shed and they pack it with dry ice. And after that fact, the town made an ordinance that says, okay, no home cryo freezing for your deaths or whatever. But he literally got grandfathered into it.
This seems like a bad dream.
So at first everybody's like, this is terrible, but then like people started coming to the town to check out the frozen dead guy. They're like, there's no way there's actually. They're like, we gotta see the tough shit.
And
So
he's
yeah,
in
now it's
there
this.
still?
Oh yeah, it's still there. You can go see him.
Who
um
packed it with ice still?
his family.
And
Like it's
how long's he been dead?
like 30-40 years now. I can't
So what?
imagine the amount of money they spent.
So what? His
But
great grandkids are packing it with ice now.
it's something like that, yeah. Well, actually,
Is
the town actually helps subsidize the dry ice costs now.
he naked?
Be, I don't know. I haven't seen him myself.
Let's go see a frozen 30-year-old prick.
But so now they have this big festival. It's called Frozen Dead Guy Days, and there's it's like it's almost like Mardi Gras, but like it's like Halloween in March, basically.
I don't
So
like this.
they have like coffin sledding, they have live music, everybody dresses up as skeletons. It's a great time. So if you ever make your way out here, I would love to take you to Frozen Dead Guy Days.
Colorado, frozen dead guy. Oh my god, it already came up. Oh, wow, it came up immediately.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a thing.
the people dress up like Cinco de Mayo. Cinco. Frozen dead guy. The tough shit. Interesting.
Personally, my favorite event is the coffin sledding.
That's crazy. I mean, they got the thing open. It just looks like, I don't know. You can't really see him because he's packed in ice.
Yeah, the Frozen Dead guy himself is a little lackluster. It's more of just like a drinking event, if anything.
Yeah.
Um, but there's your fun fact of the day. But um, to deviate from Frozen Dead guys and back to your work, if there's any social media accounts, upcoming events, projects you'd like people to know about, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm getting ready for the 80th anniversary of Normandy. I'll be running a GoFundMe for that, and please donate. You can find me at The Rifle on Amazon. Yeah, on Amazon. You can find me at The Rifle on Instagram, The Rifle on Facebook. Um, yeah, both my best-selling books are on Amazon under The Rifle. And again, we'll be doing a campaign. You'll see it on social media to raise money to bring 5 living World War II veterans back to Normandy for the 80th anniversary.
That is fantastic. Our listeners at home, definitely go out and purchase the book. Even I read the first book myself, and then I did the audiobook for the second. Which, by the way, great narrator choice for the audiobooks. Um, very very engaging. Is one of the better audiobook versions I've heard in a long time.
Or here's a little
So
unknown
yeah, go.
fact that the narrator of my audiobook is the bouncer from the movie 50 Shades of Grey.
Really?
Yes.
My God, you're going to make me go back and watch that shitty film now.
I know. I didn't pick him. The publisher did because
Okay,
he wanted
well,
to do it because his grandfather was a World War II vet.
you know what? He's got a good voice.
Yeah.
Anywho, if you have enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. The stars do matter. If you want additional content from us or would like to keep in touch of upcoming episodes, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Discord, and YouTube under the Armchair Commanders podcast. Uh, Andrew, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Just thanks for having me, buddy. And let's do this again with another miniseries.
Sounds good. Uh, for those at home, we do have plans coming up for reviewing a miniseries, so keep your eyes out for that. Until next time, I've been John. Andrew, thank you again so much for joining us, and we will catch you later.